got Craig here with his 2017 Toyota Tacoma. It's the TRD off-road, I believe.
Yes.
And he's going to give us a little walk around of his fully custom rig.
Alright, so this trailer was the second version of it. The first version of it, it was originally designed, I designed it to go behind my other truck. It's a 1-ton with a truck camper to haul my kayaks on. I don't have the racks on it right now, but it was wood-sided, just an open cargo or a utility trailer. As time evolved, I got my other Tacoma, my older truck, and my son wanted to go to a desert trip, so I converted it. I took the top off, or made a top for it, moved the axle forward 6 inches. It was way too tongue heavy. Just while I had it apart, I added some jacks, and we can look at those in a minute. Later on, added an awning to it because I used to carry a quick shade, and that was always the first thing that had to go in, the last thing that had to, or the first thing that had to get packed, the last thing coming out. So inevitably it rains when you're setting up camp or taking down camp. So this was another stage to add on. It is an ARB touring 8x8. But what I've done, and I've seen some confusion or some issues people have had, and I've tried to solve them myself, is this will fill with water with rain if you don't have it tilted off or any kind of leaves. So I added another pole. It just pops in. I added an extra foot on one end or the other, I don't remember. Drilled a simple hole. That gives me that opportunity to stiffen up the center here. And I can also put a pool noodle here to kind of raise it up. The other thing I did was, since I now have this ridge pole here, I took just a piece of PVC, and I'm not sure what they call this T-bar stuff, but I run it across there and I can put my little kitchen cabinet there, because a lot of times this is my kitchen area. And it breaks down and throws in the trailer just fine. Now the unique thing about this, I haven't seen anybody else do this, is I designed this mount for the actual awning, and it allows me to lower it either side as far as I want until it, of course, maxes out. See the back of it, it's a round bar in a square hole with a hitch pin, so it'll actually pivot up and down, and all I do is pull the hitch pins off, the whole awning comes off that quick, so I can move it around like that. But this gives me the ability to tilt, like if the wind is heavy on this side, I can lean the whole thing this way or that way or that. It's just universal. So that's been good. So this is part of the kayak rack. These things are adjustable from the bottom down to about here, and obviously that high up there. And I have twins that go on the other side over there, and bars that go across that kayaks would ride on. As far as the tent goes, this is just the auto home air top, and it has the struts in there, so it just folds down real easy. And it just lifts itself up, so when you go camping, unlatch these latches and you're camping. There's little struts right here. It's like a frog leg in a way. They just fold down.
So when they're propped up, do they lock? So like if you got a heavy load on top?
Oh, this is it. It holds itself up there. I mean, in the wind it might move a little bit, but it's been very stable. People use these worldwide, and they're very sought after, I guess, because they're aerodynamic on the truck, because it's really supposed to go on a truck or a rooftop. It can handle snow, because I guess at some point the snow will just slide off. It's pretty rounded, and you can always just do this and it'll slide off. But gotcha. I've never used it actually in the snow. Used it mostly in fair weather camping, but it works really good in the wind, high wind, rain. This is waterproof canvas, and it's never saturated on me. It's about 6.5, almost 7 feet long. I get lots of room to lengthwise. My son, he's a little taller than I am, but we fit in here fine when we do our kayak fishing at the ocean. The wife and I will sleep in here, but it's a 2-person if you're comfortable. Maybe one small dog. We use this for just 2 people at a time. One dog at the most, a small dog. I do plan on trying to put this on my rack on my truck here this winter to see if I can do some desert trips without the trailer. But that's the tent, and it was an afterthought, because originally this was just a cargo or a utility trailer. And then when my son and I wanted to do a desert trip, I converted the trailer to be able to go off-road. The tires are actually new. I had street tires on it until last week, and they were 26-inch street tires, 10 years old, time to replace them. Now we have I think they work out to almost 29 inches, like 28.5 inches, the ATK02s. The trailer has the ability to just, about 20 pounds of pressure, and your strut goes up. You have access to inside the trailer. I haven't got latches on here yet because I'm not that smart. I use the lock to hold it. I plan on putting a strut somehow under here to slow down the weight, because that tire is pretty heavy. put a strut under there to hold that down, but it's got tie downs inside, those little what they call an E-track. I could put, like I have here, the piece of wood. It's on a little joist hanger. I can move it around if I want to put stuff. I have another one I can put above it. I can shore up things like a water I can put in here so it doesn't shift around on bumpy roads. So as you can see, this is a false lid. It looks like it's solid, but it's a rooftop tent in its reality. So I just made it like mimic a rooftop.
So the white part is part of the rooftop tent. You just put the bars right over there.
So this mimics like the rooftop rack on your truck.
Okay, cool. That's really cool.
Yeah,
saves weight that way too, doesn't it?
Yeah. Instead of putting like solid steel across here, it's just 1/8 inch steel there on top of this 1 by 1 1/4, I think it is. So when I originally built the trailer, it was plywood across here. To add the strut, these are 250 pounds each of pressure. I had to put an actual real piece of steel in here with adjustment points, and you can see off to that side over there, there's 4 points for that adjustment, and there's 4 points vertically here, because in the winter time it's colder and these aren't as strong, so I change it to more vertical. Summertime it gets really hot and these things they're kind of janky. They'll get hot and too overpressured, so I'll adjust them to where they're more horizontal, then it flows better for lifting and lowering. Otherwise I'd never get it to come down, it would just keep going up. But because they bend, I carry spares. So they have doors I made on both sides. The next version, I want to put a slide out kitchen. Comes out from here. It's in my head, working on it still, because right now everything is in that drawer, stove and everything, and I have to take it out, set it up, but that will happen eventually. Okay. We have a step that rides inside the trailer here. Normally it folds up flat and it just clamps along the side. I won't take it off completely, but you see it folds down. This thing will fold around. And I got D-rings welded on both sides that can go either side. It allows you to step on here and get into the trailer. The fenders are made out of 1 inch DOM. I want to say it's 095 wall, if I remember right. I was making roll cages for sandrails at one point. It's a tube there and a tube here. It's all welded to the trailer. Small car hits that, it'll have a problem. So I have some triangulation here to keep the sidewall strong. This is all welded all the way around. My lights are wired from the inside. All my wiring is inside the tubing. It's grounded inside the tubing, soldered, heat shrink, dielectric grease. It's not going to fail. Hasn't failed in 10 years. That's always a failure point on trailers, is just running your wires under there and snagging it and ripping it and tearing it. The wires come in from the front. I took this is a rubber part for the back of a hatchback on a minivan. The wiring that goes to, I think, the taillights or whatever. Just go to the junkyard, and it keeps it flexible and water from impeding inside of there. We have my hitch pin back here. So this hitch is extendable. I can move it out a foot if I have really long lumber, kayak, whatever. I can lock it in place at this point when I got more room for where the kayak meets the back of the truck. Or what I normally do when I'm camping, I'll just pull the thing all the way out and I'll set it up on the front up here of the tongue, like so. Or I'll throw it in the trailer or in the truck. Now, there's no real way to hook onto this trailer once it's like this. There's no hitch pin holes. Yeah. There's no way. I mean, somebody creative enough might be able to, but just your average thief is too lazy. But yeah, this has worked for many miles. I think I've got to have at least 50,000 miles on this trailer by now. I grease the bearings once a year. This top comes off, so of course the tent comes off, those clamps. I have a plate right here, it's bolted on. It keeps this whole lid from shifting this way. Take that off, and then all it is slide the whole thing off, because the hinges are one way. Yeah. So I can just take it off, set it on a table on the garage floor, and I have an open trailer to use for whatever. For stability, put this guy up so you can see. The legs were too short when I put these stabilizers, which stabilizes the trailer for when you're sleeping in it. The legs were too short. Had to add another 6 inches to them. Took off the square goofy foot. I decided to make like an alligator foot. Yeah. Just for fun. And it is sharp. These fingernails will cut you. They're sharp. I don't know why I had to sharpen them, but The frame's all welded. There's nothing bolted together. It's welded completely. That way, one, it's not rusting, you know, in its seams. Anywhere that the wood that's in the body is bolted to a standoff, or well, I don't know what you call those things. It's just welded between the tubes, bolted to that. That way, it's not. I'm not putting anything through the tubing. I can't compromise it, so it's not going to rust through on me. I wanted it to be able to handle, you know, Baja. If I go to Baja, right. Those things tend to swallow trailers. You see them left on the side of the road, torn apart. It's got a 3,500 pound axle. It's a little bouncy. I do plan to put some shocks on there soon, but airing the tires down seem to do pretty good on this trail here. I'd like to put a 20-gallon water tank underneath. I have 23 and a half inches of ground clearance with these new tires, so I have plenty of room above the axle to put a water tank. Right now I just use jugs. This thing wasn't originally designed for an off-road trailer, just to haul my kayaks behind my truck camper. But it's already built, and I just keep adding to it. So I do want to put on the opposite side over there, between the wheel well and here, I'm going to put my Jerrycan on the outside, so I'll make a Jerrycan holder for that. So now I can't stake it down. These things are horrible in the wind just to take off. I made these little plates. They're about 30 pounds each. They're about 3/4 of an inch of lead inside of a 3/8 thick 8x12 tubing. I think it's 1.25 inches high. 1/4 inch plate underneath there, solid. So now it's anchored to it. I don't have to stake nothing into the ground. It holds it. On the jack, they make some janky jacks for boats and stuff, and I couldn't find anything that was going to work with this. So I ended up buying a 500 pound ton weight, something rather, I think it was, or 5,000 pound. I think it's a ridiculous amount. But the alignment was bad, so I cut it off and moved it, because I think it was further down. I needed the ground clearance. I made this wheel. It's a $6 Harbor Freight wheel. I made the caster for it. It swivels beautifully. Doesn't fall apart. Goes over gravel to some extent. But I can unpin it and swing it out of the way, or just take it off. That works good. Alright, so the box came on my old truck, my 1-ton truck. I didn't want to throw it away because these things are quite expensive to start with. And I already have the trailer here, so I wanted to add that to it for storage. At first I just threw my camping, like, kitchen stuff in here. I've since then took everything out, put it on a table, organized it, figured out, okay, what works together, figure out what kind of boxes it'll work. So I have, you know, spices. The junk drawer has everything. Makes it easy to get to. Plates, forks, knives, spoons, bowls. We have all the kitchen essentials, you know, scissors, spatulas and things. Pretty much anything. Avocado slicer. Then we have, you keep going down, we have pots and pans and stage deep, just layers of stuff inside of stuff. None of this is designed to go together, but it worked. This is my pots and pans and my cook thing. We have, this used to just be a mess. It was just stuff, I know where it's at, it's in there. I keep little bottles of bleach. Empty one here. We got salt if we ever need it for boiling stuff. We have dish soap for washing up. We have olive oil for cooking. Yeah, I have these little sleeves. I keep getting them in these tournaments I go to, and it makes it nice just from rattling around in there. So this is the one side. This is my kitchen side. It's on the passenger side of the trailer. This side is my fishing and other stuff camping. So we have a drawer, spare parts. I have a couple of Hobies, lots of spare parts, more spare parts. Can never have, this one needs to get more organized actually. Extra fishing line, goop, more goop, some anti-seize, more goop. That's for sealing up leaky kayaks and bolting things on and drilling holes in them. Perfect gun for that. So then we have, this is a kit I put together for field stripping my reels and cleaning them, putting them back together. And saltwater intrusion is horrible. So I can do anything I need to for my reels. As far as ocean fishing, here's one of our jigs. I don't use this one very often, but it's a big jig.
Nice. Yeah, that's a decent size.
Yeah, this is overkill. It's almost like an adult toy. Here we have more camping gear that works. These are bungee clotheslines. stretch in between trees, and you can just put your clothes in between these and it just holds it there. Yeah, you can never have too much of that stuff. Here's some more jigs. This one's a monster. Look at that guy.
Oh man. That's
like a 14-inch. Get her done. Got a couple of those. There's a shorter one. This is a flounder. These things slaughter the fish. You can see the teeth marks in that from all the fish bites. The cool thing is if it gets ripped, these kind of can be mended. Just heat up a spoon and just melt it across it. It'll blend it back together. These ones not so much. Yeah. It all depends on the brand and who makes them. I do this because these hooks are big, heavy. We're talking 8 ounces. It gets jabbed in your skin, you're screwed. And you're in your kayak. So I just have these in here so that they're contained. Right. I can just tie it off to the kayak. And this is all my electrical stuff for camping. We have chargers for my radios, my VHF radios. Got a couple of those. The fish finders, like what's on the kayak. Yeah, there's just all kinds of chargers in here. My mom was cool enough for Christmas, I believe it was. She got me this adapter you plug in, and you can plug in, I think, was it 5 more units? They're all pretty much low power, so I'm not like running power saws on power saws. Right. I wouldn't do that. I have so many hooks and lures and whatnot in here. So in the summertime, I'll have 2 kayaks on my truck at any given time. So this year, I bought this in 2017, and my plan was to have a soft top. I don't want the extra weight of a canopy. I want to be able to take it off, but I needed a way to carry the kayaks. So the first mod I did was I put in the Rhino ditch channel, which is a slot, and you can put these on and they can go up and down from here to here. It's kind of a pain. This truck has some really hard steel to drill, but I got through it, sealed it all up. Now this thing mounts anywhere on there, but I still had to have a back one. And my thing was no fishing lessons until I can carry my kayak. So the spring was design a rack that goes over the soft top, and with the help of my friend Fred, diddled up the design we needed. We came up with the design for the 3/4 tube. It's not quite all the way around. Got that, the dimensions and everything, how far we wanted away from the canopy. He did some CAD work, printed it out all in laser for me, bent it all up for me, and then I glued it together with a TIG welder. Gave myself a couple hours to figure out how to weld aluminum. It's really not that hard. It turned out pretty good. Now, surprisingly enough, this rack weighs 26 pounds. It can handle 600 pounds. We did that with putting 600 pounds on there, and it didn't do anything. It doesn't even flex, which is pretty nice. So that gives me the opportunity to put my rooftop tent up here, taking this kayak rack off, and I have a Yakima track up here, and with the bottom of the rooftop tent I have some extruded aluminum that can sit on here and here. Put the tent on top of that, it'll clear the awning on the other side. You might notice these are off-centered, like this is further apart than these two, and that was designed that way so I can get to the snaps. However, it turned out that it lines up perfectly with this buckle, which isn't horrible. But these soft tops, if you've never played with one, they're really nice, and that you can get into your rig. They're not at all any more secure than any just breaking glass. You want to rip it, tear it, whatever. It's just to keep stuff dry. That's all I have it for. Or to stealth camp. That's the other trick. But I can also roll this all up in safari style, so everything's rolled up and airflow can go through here and have wet stuff drying out while I'm driving, yet still have my rigs on top, the kayaks up here. I do plan on making a fishing pole holder that'll go across and have those quick fists, and the fishing poles will go underneath the kayaks for just when we're traveling from house to the ocean and ocean to the house. They're not going to be secure there. People can just borrow them if they really want them, but that is a plan. When we designed this rack, we put in slots for later on we can bolt stuff onto it, and we can see that how it worked out. Leftover material that came off of this one here, we ended up making these brackets for the awning. This was like one of my rare impulse purchases. I don't normally impulse buy, but I was viewing the truck from a distance, and I was looking at the distance from here and the clearance here. I'm like, I can put an awning there. I think I can fit an awning there. So before I even had the brackets designed, I looked on Craigslist and found this awning, and the gentleman only used it once. Got it for a really good steal, and it's in perfect shape. I called up my buddy that helped me make these and gave him back the material. He flamed me these out a day or two, bolted it on, and it's worked. It works perfect. It clears everything. There's about 1.5 inches of adjustment this way, and on the back there's another 1/2 inch adjustment on there, so I can go up or down with it. So yeah, it rides on the truck now. This is primarily for when my son and I go fishing. It's either raining or it's really hot when we get off the water. So now we have something to cover us up, and that's where those landings I made for the awning for on asphalt. I don't have to stake it down in the wind and just throw those on the ground. Right. Yeah, this is a completely stock truck. I haven't done anything other than put a sticker on the tailgate. Blue Ridge Overland, I love their company. They make these cool headrest bags. They just tear off, but just keep the basic stuff in there. I got some grocery bag hooks for that. It's pretty much a stock truck. I did add the front or the anytime camera, so when you're driving you can just there's a switch down there on the dash on the left hand side down there. So when you're driving you can just switch the camera either rear or forward. And so I added a forward camera, and it shows just this much of the license plate, so I know where the truck is in reference to the ground and pulling up the things. But it's been really good for trails. When I get up on a trail that's a drop off, I can't see where I'm going. These hoods are kind of high. Works perfect. And actually the first time I used it was up on the top of this hill when I came up to scout this area out. Going around the corner there's a drop off down, and I'm like, oh, let's try this, and that worked out great.
Do you have any plans for the immediate future for any upgrades or any changes or mods or anything like that?
So as far as the truck's concerned, I do want to make some sliders, because that's it repels the door dings from the mall crawling minivans and whatnot. That'll be the first thing I do. Tires are going to come later, because I want to do like 33s or 35s, re-gear, front locker to go with the rear locker already has, but do an ARB front locker, the compressor. Fox, King, or Icon, I haven't decided which group I'm going to go with for the shocks to go with the lift and all that stuff, but that'll all be happening at one time. I don't want to do parts of it. So the tires are going to go probably until they wear. I'll get around to doing a bumper and a rear bumper. I'll make those. I'm going to go with aluminum on the front for 2 reasons. One, it's lighter than steel. Second, aluminum's perfectly fine off-road when you bump up against a tree or a rock or something. It'll save you from smashing stuff up. The bigger reason for it is when you're on the road and you take an impact with another vehicle, steel will fold your frame. Aluminum hopefully will give you some leeway and bend. Let that crash, bend, you can remake that. The steel will just destroy your frame, the truck's done. It's not a guarantee, but the back could be a steel bumper, because it's not going to take up that much weight back there. And then you do want some strength back there if you end up doing like a tire carrier. Aluminum is going to be a little janky and work hard and then crack. The steel tends to hold up better, but I plan on building all that stuff myself. I haven't decided on a design yet, but there's enough ideas out there to get an idea and then completely change it and do something else. That's how my brain works.
We got a really good setup and good rig. I think this is like if you like to go fishing and if you like to just go into remote areas and do things like that, this is like the perfect setup for that as well. Yeah, you're gonna see Craig in his rig a few more times in our upcoming trips and such, so keep an eye out for that.
Katie's like, yes, he's cooking.
This is awesome. Good rig. Thank you very much, Craig.
You bet.